situation where someone's been through a trauma, what really needs to happen is part of trauma healing is to put the trauma behind you, because the experience of trauma is that it's ongoing. If you've been through something and you keep reliving it, you don't feel it's in your past. When something's in your past, you can start to move forward and heal. And when you do that, that's where healing begins. Of course, even if you feel capable of doing that, the trauma is not over. War is continuing. Soldiers are still being called up into the army. There are still threats to the country. The anti-Semitism in the diaspora is getting bigger and bigger. So you're in a situation where everyone's trying to recover, but they're not recovering because the source of the problem is not behind them, it's ongoing. So instead of recovering, we're only normalizing into this very, very difficult thing.
Right, and I think it's really important to be forgiving of your partner in that situation and of yourself. Whatever's going on, this is temporary. I'm sorry to trivialize it, but it's a little bit like being really, really hangry or something. In other words, you know the person's hangry. Again, that's a trivialization. You know the person's really feeling stressed, really, really, really freaked out. I mean, we've had this ourselves. There have been times when Ilana's just been reading a lot on the news and really aware of what's going on, and I can see like the stress levels rising. I'm just not feeling those stress levels. I'm not saying you're wrong, yeah, but that is what you're feeling. So when I see that, I've got two choices. I can either be like, look, you've got to stop this now. You've got to be less stressed. Stop reading that stuff. It's bad for you. Let's get back to where we were. And that can work sometimes, but I don't think it's a great suggestion. I think be very sensitive with that one. I think what's more important is to just recognize that your partner is having a much more involved physical, emotional experience than normal life does. And therefore, you've got to go into a different type of space in order to be supportive through that. And most importantly, to not read too much into it, to not take it personally, to not be like, why are you being like this? Am I not enough for you? What's going on with this? You don't want to add that in because people are confused and they don't really know what's going on. So for you to assume that that's the new normal and punishing them for that's a terrible mistake.
And
right?
think of all the ongoing stresses. There are many, many people who don't have homes. That didn't just go away. They still don't have homes. There are many, many people who are living in fear of a partner perhaps who's called up and at war. There are many people who are worried about the status quo in the countries that they're living in as anti-Semitism.
The college students who aren't sure like what they're going back to in a couple of weeks in the US.
Yes, you can't expect people to behave as if a trauma is behind them when the source is actually ongoing. And we have to, for ourselves and for our relationships, be sensitive to the fact that the stress factors are there and they haven't shifted. So there's no reason to assume that our stress levels will have gone down. Bear that in mind. Stress does not bring out the best in people, and we are all stressed.